Can I be angry for a moment? As you know, I've been following the tragic story of 3 trans and non-binary teens in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, who died by suicide in a single year. This is a tragic story, and I can only imagine the number of people who are grieving these kids' loss. But this is also an important story, a story that we have a responsibility to tell other community leaders and politicians around the country, if for no other reason than to let them know of the possible trouble that could be coming to their communities. These kids were deeply loved by their families, and their lives had meaning, and yet tragedy struck.
A teenager died in October after jumping off the same parking garage.
This fence was placed in 2015 after many people died by suicide.
It's a tragedy, and our thoughts and prayers with the family.
After talking with a number of folks in Lancaster about the number of trans, non-binary, and gay teens that have died by suicide in the past year or so, I learned that the number might tragically be higher. Lancaster has been described to me as part of the Bible Belt of Pennsylvania. Church life is deeply ingrained into this community's DNA. One of the teens who died said a peer cited a love of God and country as licensed to call them by their dead name. In my talks with the folks in Lancaster, one thing keeps coming up over and over again. The problem is systemic, they say, and has its roots in conservative Christian leaders wielding a national agenda to subjugate local trans and gay youth.
A Pride Festival pits a church against a park board.
Fulton Township has cut its funding to the Quarryville Library for having LGBTQ plus books.
Appalled. That's the word the Hempfield School District used to describe a drag show event put on by the Gay Sexuality Alliance.
Tensions were high at Red Lion High School as school board members discussed policy proposals that critics say will harm transgender students.
But don't give an inch. Don't try to accommodate evil.
That slippery slope, if it's not stopped, could go right down to indoctrination.
Yes, we should all be able to learn. But if we're sitting in these classrooms, constantly just getting barraged and barraged and barraged just for who we are, how can we learn?
This last speaker is so right. Think about what's happening to these kids and the impact of what national political leaders are saying and its effect on local trans and gay youth. Whether it's stigma coming from constantly getting the message that they are insignificant or broken, book bans, restrictions on what names people can call you, what pronouns you can use, what clothing, jewelry you can wear, what sports you can play, school bullying, lack of mental health care, the threat of jailing your parents, legislations and laws attacking you personally, and even what bathroom you can or can't use. When all this blocks a kid from being who they are, something's gotta give. Remember earlier when I said I talked to the folks in Lancaster and they said that the deaths of these 3 teens had its local roots in the subjugation of gay and trans youth? I think roots is the wrong word. I think the right word is fungi. This is the opening credits to the HBO series The Last of Us, a story of a mass fungal infection that causes otherwise normal people to become zombies with only one goal in mind, a goal that ends up killing nearly everybody on the planet and collapsing society. The Last of Us is an excellent series, but I think it's also a foreboding fable for where we are now, as in right now. In fact, I think it's pretty significant that the first person we see in the series who has the infection, the disease emerges from their mouth. Which makes me think of what we hear coming from the mouths of many of our political leaders, governors, legislators, and even celebrities. Real people who need to think about places like Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and the very real teenagers who live there. Leaders who need to ask themselves, exactly what disease am I spreading?
Because there are some fungi who seek not to kill, but to control, not of millions of us, but billions of us. Billions of puppets with poisoned minds, permanently fixed on one unifying goal, to spread the infection to every last human alive by any means necessary.